Welcome back to A Slice of News, where I cut you off a slice of news. Don't let safety become the enemy of progress. That was the sentiment expressed by acting NASA Administrator Sean Duffy at an internal employee town hall last week. While he did reiterate that NASA itself was safety-driven and should remain so, he also made the claim that they sometimes allow safety to become the enemy of making progress. This is a particularly concerning sentiment when it comes to NASA because there are clear examples in NASA's history that show us the consequences of putting safety second to progress. During a launch rehearsal test for Apollo 1 in 1967, a fire broke out and cost the lives of 3 astronauts, including Gus Grissom, the second American to fly in space. And we don't even have to look back that far. In 1986, the Challenger exploded barely a minute after launch, ending the lives of the 7 astronauts on board, including a civilian teacher, Christy McAuliffe. Putting progress above safety is dangerous when it comes to space. Part of what have spurred these comments from Administrator Duffy is the concern that China may beat the United States back to the moon. And naturally, in this time of America First nationalism, that simply is unconscionable. But we have tangible evidence of what happens when you cut corners in your rush to get back into space. It's almost ironic in their rush for an American win to the moon, the administration has cut both NASA's budget and personnel in their sweeping goal of shrinking the federal workforce entirely. The president cut $6 billion from NASA's budget and reduced NASA's personnel by 4,000, nearly 1/5 of their total staff. Only a few months ago, it was reported that over 2,000 senior-level employees at NASA were set to leave under the administration's latest round of staffing cuts. Administrator Duffy assures that even with the reduced budget and reduced staffing, NASA still has enough manpower and money to accomplish the missions they have planned for the next several years. But meanwhile, China has said they're committed to landing a man on the moon by 2030, and that they have plans to build a nuclear plant on the lunar surface to power a joint China-Russia moon base. So it really does raise question of whether the U.S. can really beat China back to the moon in less than 5 years. I think in a lot of ways the U.S. has been a lot like a middle-aged man still hung up on their game-winning touchdown at the high school championship. Yes, we got to the moon first. In 1969, we made it to the moon. That's an achievement that no one can take away from us. It's also true that we haven't been back since 1972. Half a century has gone by. So maybe it stands to reason that if we can't make it back, it's time for someone else to. While landing on the moon was certainly an American victory, it was not a purely American achievement. When Neil set foot on that lunar surface, he didn't say it was one giant leap for America. He said it was a giant leap for mankind. It was an achievement for all of us. It's all too easy to think that that flag planted on the moon is some sort of claim upon it. Like just because we got there first, it belongs to us in some way. But obviously it's not America's moon, and it's a dangerous idea to think that because we got there first, that we have some sort of right to it. And we have to stop at nothing to make sure that we get back there before anyone else can. Though I'd be lying if I wasn't kind of looking forward to us coming back, if nothing else, to finally once and for all silence the moon landing deniers, since it would prove once and for all that we did in fact land on the moon, and that one small step for man took place on the moon and not in some studio backlot directed by Stanley Kubrick. But I also acknowledge that that would be achieved regardless of the nationality of the man who stepped back onto the moon. But I think turning this into a second moon race, akin to the 1960s and the Soviets versus the USA, is a dangerous one. I think the Soviets themselves would be able to produce ample evidence of the consequences of cutting corners in the name of progress in space. Repeating the tragedies of the past simply to beat a perceived rival to the goal is not worth it. Yes, competition breeds innovation. Definitely saw this during the space race of the 1960s. But given the tight time frame and NASA's budgetary and personnel cuts, it seems far too easy to foresee an outcome that is tragic, all to declare success in this new space race. While they haven't outright said it and certainly won't admit it, I do get the impression that the administration is trying to turn this into a win for themselves and wrapping it in a cloth of nationalism and trying to frame it as a win for America. But we should want to go back to the moon not because it is a way of planting our flag back on the moon, but as an advancement of scientific progress, not just for America, but for the world. Yes, we should want to go back, but for the right reason, and to do it safely, above all. Yeah, going back to the moon is exciting, and we should all, as one collective people, be excited to go back. I think one thing that's been sorely lacking is an enthusiasm for space by the general populace. One of the things that made those early moon missions possible was a robust desire from the public to go out and touch the moon. In the decades following our last trip to the moon, the population has kind of lost their love of space in general. The American people have largely lost that sense of wonder and excitement for space. And lacking that public support, it's been very easy for this administration to carve out NASA's budget and workforce, because the average American doesn't care that much about NASA. And I think losing that has been to our great detriment. If we were truly committed to go back to the moon, NASA should be funded even more, and their workforce should be increased, not gutted. A project that audacious should have every resource handed to it, not have every resource possible taken away. Because when you have to make do with what you have, corners get cut and mistakes happen, and those mistakes could cost lives. It's a bit depressing, though I suppose not all that surprising, that this return to the moon is seemingly motivated not by curiosity or a love of space, but out of some sort of desire to keep our American claim on the moon and not allow the Chinese to get there before we can get back. We shouldn't be motivated by national envy or American exceptionalism, but that really feels like the only motivating factor at the moment, and safety cannot take a back seat to that desire to get out back onto the moon. It shouldn't be just some American win, but this, like everything the administration does, is only about putting America above all other nations. Some misguided idea that America should be superior over all and the only nation to set foot onto the moon. In his famous 1962 speech at Rice University, John F. Kennedy said that there was knowledge to be gained, new rights to be won, and that they must be won and used for the progress of all people. He didn't just mean the American people, he meant all of us as a collective. And while yes, it could be argued that in the height of the Cold War, an American win onto the moon was a PR win, so we can't say that original push to the moon wasn't at least somewhat politically motivated, but it wasn't entirely. And it feels like this new push to the moon is entirely politically motivated and simply done as a way of pushing our American exceptionalism onto the rest of the world yet again. And maybe if the Chinese beat us back, it's good on them. It seems unrealistic to think that no other nation would ever get to the moon, and ours having gotten there first, an achievement that will stand forever. Somebody had to be second. So maybe China will be the second nation to step onto the moon, and that's okay. And while Administrator Duffy says that safety can be the enemy of progress, I think that safety and progress are intertwined. The best progress is the one derived from being safe first. There were warnings that the O-rings on the rocket boosters would fail in cold temperatures, yet those concerns were ignored on that morning that the Challenger took flight, and the cost was the lives of everyone on board. They put progress over safety, and it cost lives. America absolutely should go back to the moon. I wholeheartedly believe that our future is in the stars, and the moon is the step towards that future. But when we go back, we should do so safely and carefully, not just in a rush to beat the Chinese or the Russians or whoever else. We owe it to those who came before not to cut corners in the rush to succeed. If nothing else, that should be our legacy in space. Getting back up there, but doing it carefully, safely, and for the right reasons, not just for a political win, or at least that's how I see it. So that's going to be it for this episode of A Slice of News. So until next time, I've been your host, Mr. Slice, and until next time when I cut you off another slice of news.